Hi, this is Jon Bek, and in this video we're going to do some troubleshooting of a SQL Server connection failure, a common problem for students that are new to SQL Server, and even catches older experienced systems administrators out from time to time. So let's take a look at one common failure. Let's go ahead and bring up our SQL Server Management Studio. And we go to connect, and it may be a server we've connected to before, or it may be our first time connecting, and we go to connect, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait some more, and nothing happens. We're not getting through, we're not connecting, and eventually the connection attempt times out, and we get a message similar to this one. A network-related or instance-specific error occurred, blah, blah, blah. It might be an error 26. There are other similar errors that could be generated as well. Bottom line is we're not connecting, and we're not certain why, particularly if we've never connected to the SQL Server before. We're not sure we have everything configured correctly. Configuration problems, that can be an issue. But the very first thing to check, and what will catch you out most of the time, is the question of, do you actually have your SQL Server running? So how would you figure that out? A couple ways. One is I'm going to press Control-Alt-Delete, and I'm going to bring up my task manager and make that a little larger. And I'm going to make sure I'm looking at the process view. And let's look in the background processes. And if I scroll down in the background processes to the S's, I'm looking for, it'll either be under the M's for Microsoft or S for SQL Server. In this case, probably should be S SQL Server. Now I see that there is a SQL Server VSS writer service that's running, but what I am not seeing here is I'm not seeing the SQL Server process, the executable, the database engine itself running. So that tells me that my engine is not running. That's one way to know. Another way to know that that is the case is also to use the tool that will help us to most easily cure that, and that is, let's bring up the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So if I go to my Windows Start screen or my applications, you can either scroll down and hunt for it, or if you just type SQL, you'll get the list of apps that start with SQL. And here is something you may not have used before, which is SQL Server 2014 Configuration Manager. And your particular configuration manager may vary if you have a more recent or older version of SQL Server or a different edition of SQL Server, but I'm running SQL Server 2014. So let's take a look, and I'm going to allow that to run. And when that comes up, I notice that there are several SQL servers here, SQL Server services, and what I'm interested in is one of the database engines. And I notice that there's the CIS-117 instance. There's also another instance out here called SQL Express. And then there's the SQL Server agent and the SQL Server browser. We can talk about what those things do at another time. But the essential piece that I need, my database that I want to talk to, my database engine, is CIS-117. And I notice that it is currently stopped. It is set so that the start mode should be automatic when I start Windows, okay? You may choose to change that so it has to be started manually. And one reason you would do that, and that's often the cause of the problem, is that if you're running a Windows desktop, not a dedicated server, you're not always going to be running SQL Server, and so you wouldn't necessarily want to eat up all the resources in memory and CPU cycles that the SQL Server will be running, even if it's not, even if it's sitting idle. So a lot of times when you install for a desktop rather than a dedicated server, it is not set to come up and start every time that Windows restarts. So you will have to come in here and start that manually, or change it so that you fix it so it starts the way you want it to start. You can go into the properties and start and change that. I'm just going to go ahead and click Start to see that the service starts. Okay, so now the service is running, and presumably we could go ahead and connect to that, and we'll test that in a moment. But let's go ahead and bring up Task Manager again, Control-Alt-Delete, and look at Task Manager. And we'll see what the tasks look like when SQL Server is running, when the database engine is running specifically. And so again, not in my applications. We see SQL Server Management Studio as an application, but we're looking for the background processes where the engine will run. And if we scroll down to the S's, and I see SQL Server Windows NT, and they still, for whatever reason, have held on to the NT name, even though the NT operating system is kind of passe. We're now on to Windows 10 and other things. But notice that that is now running, and we can see, how many CPU cycles and how much memory and disk and network it's currently consuming. So basically, it's idle right now. It's eating a little chunk of memory, but not doing anything really in terms of eating a lot of CPU cycles, but it is consuming a little bit of memory. So that's why we might not want to run it just all the time. I'm going to go ahead and close my task manager now, and let's see now if I'm able to connect. Yeah, and it connects happily. So that's the solution in this particular case. If you have other failures, post to the course Q&A discussion, and I will be more than happy to try and help you to troubleshoot. Remember to tell me how you are running SQL Server, if it's on your own machine or in the cloud, or what your configuration is. And if you can include screenshots and error codes, those are really helpful in getting to the bottom of those things, because I want you to be able to easily connect and use your SQL Server this term. It's just essential to your success. All right, see you next time.